introduced Olivier Ires from Saporo.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So the third time is a charm. I'm actually Saporo. Thank you very much for the invitation to the Global Summit. It's going to be a pretty harsh transition because we're going to talk about cybersecurity. So I'm just going to leave you 2 seconds to breathe it out. It's going to be fine, though. I will not get into too much details, hopefully. How does this thing work? Yeah. All right, so maybe some of you have heard about us. We are very proud to be one of the very few Swiss startups operating in cybersecurity. As you may know, this is a market that is heavily dependent on American and Israeli technologies right now. We have a saying in cybersecurity, we say, if you've not gone to the Mossad before, it's going to be a bad product. So I'm very glad to be actually in Switzerland, offering a solution that is really dramatically innovative in the market. And already, well, let's say, since the 1 year ago, we created the product. We were elected the best cybersecurity company in Switzerland by the Trust Valley. We today received a FEED loan from the Innovo. We raised about 6.5 million in VC capital. And for a Swiss startup, this is already not bad. So I will not try to explain to you what the product does in details, because it's more for engineers. But I will try to explain the problem, because I think it's important everyone understands that. So cybersecurity today, you may know, faces a lot of challenges. They are being increased with the current conflicts. The number of attacks has never been that high before in history. And what I can say about it is mainly because of 3 aspects. The first is the complexity and the fragmentation of environments. So when I'm talking about environments here, I'm talking about all the applications that you use, that your company uses, all the Office 365, AWS, Google Cloud, Active Directory, and stuff like that. And this is an actual graph of what an IT environment can look like when it gets big. So it's impossible to understand what there is. Today, the tactics that are used and the measurements that are used are, well, we can just say it as it is, mostly ineffective. This is the percentage to number of organizations that were compromised by at least 1 successful attack in 2021. And as you can see, it's not down to 0 at all. And the main responsible factor for that is the false positives. We have a way of anticipating attacks today that is mostly based on compliance and best practices, which are, by definition, always born after the attacks. And so it's always too late. And then the other big problem is the finite financial and human resources in cybersecurity. There is a huge people gap. Last year, it was estimated that it was 4 million people were lacking in cybersecurity. And so what does that mean is we need more context, we need more prioritization, and we need more automation. So talking about the tools that existed today, and I explained why we were born, is there were tools that enabled companies to become reactive in security, but not always proactive. And when I'm talking about the tools that cover fragmented environments, I'm talking about these environments right there. Maybe you recognize some of the logos here. This is just an example. Problem that we see in the current attacks, and that's for you to know as well, because every user is responsible for that. If one of you clicks on a phishing link once, well, your account is not just standing by itself. It's connected to other accounts, other groups, other devices, and the user will just use that passage, escalate the privileges to take over the whole infrastructure of your company. And that poses a big problem. The problem and the reason why your cybersecurity team are maybe painful to the business and like, oh, no, not these guys again, is because they need to treat with a deluge of alerts, and they cannot do that effectively. Some companies receive about 1 million alerts per day, and there are 5 in the team. So, of course, they're not defending their organization as best as they can. And the final problem with legacy tools is, as I talked about it before, security is very reactive today. We invest a lot in what we call detection and response. So we detect an attack, we try to respond to it, but in any case, the attacker is already inside the organization. That means it's already too late, right? Plus, it's an expert problem, so it doesn't scale. So our tagline is to bring order in chaos, right? So what we want to do is to focus on identity and permissions. And again, you will find all these logos that we capture inside Saporo and help organizations to reduce all these permissions, all these accesses that are not necessary to run the business, and by focusing on how the attacker sees an environment and translating it so that the defenders can do something about it. Contextualized prioritization. So this is one of the biggest things today. Imagine you live in a villa, you have like 25 windows, an attacker could enter from any one of those windows. The goal is to transform that into a fort where the attacker has only one possible entry point. This is what we help doing. And finally, to anticipate the impact of changes. So that means if you are a Salesforce guy creating permissions or using Workday or HubSpot or Azure or Office 365, the goal in the end is that you, not security, you can have a way to know if the permissions you create pose a threat to cybersecurity. Do we have it's time left? OK. All right. So I will just say this. This is not about the product, but I think it's important for anybody here to understand the problems. And then if there are CTOs, CIOs, engineers in the room with that topic in mind, please come back to the booth, and I will gladly explain what we do. Thank you so much.
Merci, Olivier. Merci.